Do you ever wonder how successful entrepreneurs built their businesses from scratch? Are you unsure if starting a business is for you? Well, tune in as we discuss how successful entrepreneurs transformed their ideas into reality. Welcome back to From Zero to Revenue with your host, Chris Yap.
Welcome to our podcast show, From Zero to Revenue, the show that features the journey of successful entrepreneurs on how they transform their ideas to revenues. I'm your host, Chris Yap. I'm super excited to have our guest here today. Honored to have Eli. You know, you are one of the true servant leaders I know, man. I know we met through EO, but I've seen you even during my accelerator days, how I think you were the head. You were the, I think, chairman.
Yeah, I had the role of
you had
accelerator president.
Yeah,
for,
at that
couple
time.
years, yeah.
But yeah, guys, please welcome
Thank you.
Eli.
Thank you.
Eli Hall of AMS Landscaping.
Correct.
How are you today, man?
I'm doing great.
Yeah. Well, tell us about AMS Landscaping.
Wow. We are a residential service-based landscape maintenance company. Most of our focus is residential maintenance for properties that are under 13,000 square feet lots and smaller. That's our avatar of what we're targeting for a smaller client in the Phoenix, Glendale, Peoria, and Scottsdale area. And we're just trying to build a scalable, systemized business through automation and good culture, good values, and just a great place to work for our team.
So I know you have quite a bit of competition in the valley, right? What makes your customers choose you? And I know you have customers who've been with you for a long time. What makes them choose you over your competitors?
Something early on, we always answer our phones. I know that's kind of turned into a cliche now, but that's how I built this business, answering the phone. I've been doing this now for 25 years. When I was on the truck, when I advertised in the phone book, if I wasn't at the office, I had the line forwarded to my cell phone and I answered it every time. That was a big key to our growth in the early stages. And it's one of our values, communication, and just utilizing systems to make sure people know we're coming when we're coming. We do a text blast the day before for all the clients that we're going to service the next day. We do a maintenance checklist upon completion of the job where the crew's got to check out, record everything that they had done. And the minute they hit done at the job site, an email goes out to the customer. So they know exactly when the crew left the house and which services were provided and what was done at the property. So we just really, we want to thrive on communication. It's really kind of go over the top.
So what I'm hearing is really the customer experience, right? From the time they called. And I haven't really met anyone who owns a landscaping company who has such a system that is as dialed in as yours, that's fantastic. And I can see why, you're growing. I believe you grow through a lot via referrals as well. I guess it boils down to that customer experience. Now, I understand that you took over the family business. Your grandfather started this. You took over in, I think, 1999, right?
Yeah.
How did that came about? Was that something that you asked for, or was it offered to you?
I was going through a challenging time in my life. I went through a divorce, got married really young. And I took a pay cut to go to work for my grandfather who owned the business. It was pretty much a job at that point. He was self-employed. It was a one-truck operation. I was like 23, 24 when I went to go work for him. And he was in his his late 70s. And man, my grandfather, he was more like a father figure to me. He really showed me work ethic and taught me what it was to be just like have good, work ethic. And right. He worked 6 days a week, up till 4 weeks up to his death. He cut grass until he was 84 years old.
Wow.
And so I knew he wasn't going to be doing it forever. And I didn't have a college education, at the time. So I thought, well, why not, throw my hat in this and see if it's something that could fit. Nobody else in the family was really looking to do that type of work. So I helped him. And back then he had everything in his head, and I was putting it on paper, so we tracked all the clients. I was trying to bring what I knew for, back in that time, back in the, late 90s, early 2000s. And yeah, so I took it over from him. And then after, I think I was about 26 when I finally got the business full time. And I just knew I didn't want to push a mower for the rest of my life. I could foresee myself like I really wanted to make it a business.
Right.
And so I just thought, if I can get to 3 trucks, I could get off the truck. In fact, I would get off the truck with the 1 truck, but I would run out of money because I was so young and foolish.
Right.
I was just spending money when I wasn't working. So, and I'd have to go back to work. It was funny. Every winter I'd jump back on a truck to get things caught up. It took me a couple years, but I was able to scale it into 3 crews. And that's really when things really started to, it kind of turned into a game after that.
Yeah. So there's so much nuggets there that we can kind of dissect that. But I think what's interesting in what you said is the work ethic. Before we started this show, we were talking about like the quality of people now is just so different from how it was before. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like what are you seeing as far as, when you started in this business, how people just show up, and now you were mentioning, people were just calling out, and probably last minute as well.
Yeah.
So I see that.
Yeah. The first 15, maybe 20 years of this business, it was definitely before COVID. We hardly had any call outs. It was just something I didn't know I felt like I didn't know what a call out was, honestly. So maybe I was a little naive about it because guys just did not call out. I mean, guys would work sick. It just, the work ethic was crazy.
Yeah.
And I was able to build a good culture around that. And my team just had, I wasn't even, before EO, I couldn't even take time off. Like I had to be, it was so important to me to meet with each crew every morning and talk to the guys, ask them how their evenings went, how their weekends went. I always felt really connected with the team. And it was a great feeling, but it wasn't scalable.
Right. Yeah.
But, to answer your question, after COVID, we started seeing just a lot more call outs, just we definitely have new systems in place to cover call outs and the way we handle that side of the business so that we can keep our promises to, servicing the customer, getting everything done.
So obviously that challenge, and I think that challenge on people, it's worsening. it's worsening. However, I think what that did for you is it prompted you to innovate, not necessarily the people, but your process, your system, which this is probably why you're so efficient process and systems wise. Would you agree on that? That was probably a major kind of prompt that made you innovate with how you were doing business?
Yeah, we've systemized hiring.
Okay.
And
awesome.
Yeah, we have. We call it the bench. We always have people ready to work.
Yes.
Like if you're going to call out, a couple times in a month, like maybe this isn't a good fit for you,
Yeah.
And we've got a list of people ready to work. So let's find you a better fit somewhere else because we can't continue to tell a client that, we're going to skip again this time because, not everybody showed up today. It's just in my business, I want to be able to deliver what we say we're going to deliver. We text them the day before. We expect to be there the next day. Don't want to have to reschedule. But the communication's key. As long as you communicate, it's usually good. But we try to minimize it.
Awesome. Now, so you started when you took over the business, started 1 truck, and then how big is the operations now? I don't know how you're measuring, whether it's number of clients or number of trucks. What's the size right now?
Yeah, we're just under 380 maintenance clients.
Wow.
And we're currently at 5 crews right now.
Okay.
Gross sales were about 1.5 last year.
Okay.
You know, we're still trying to scale and get beyond that. We're actually looking at other laterals now, just because, you know, our average client probably pays us about $300-400 a month on average. So looking for the higher ticket price items
Sure.
to help us scale, which is something new for us. I've always tried to I try to dial in just a system for like a type of, like I described it as an avatar, what we were looking, and I love all my marketing focused around that. But what I realize is we're at the whims of the seasonal wave, so to speak. So we're about to hit a wave right now. In March, usually springtime is when it starts warming up outside. Weeds start popping up. We start getting a lot more phone calls. In the wintertime, you know, the phones just don't ring. You know, it's a great time to be here in Arizona, and I'm grateful that I have residual clients that we're servicing, but there's just not as much demand out there. So we're looking for other laterals to scale our business when we're during those off-season times.
And how were you able to, if you can talk a little bit about your strategy as far as growing, as far as acquiring new clients, what was your main strategy in doing that?
We use a lot of AdWords currently. I have a huge presence online. I started in 6-7 years ago, just making what I called terrible videos. I literally is what I called them, and I had to call them that because it took me about 3 or 4 years to even start making the first one. And it was just because I always had an excuse to not make the video. And then finally I just said, I just got to make these videos, even if they're terrible.
Right.
And, you know, they started off, they weren't great, you know, but I'm so proud of them. It's so funny. I keep, even my first video, I'm very proud of it. There's like 7,000 views on YouTube.
Wow.
And it's terrible. I'm shaking, you know, with my phone, you know, but it's kind of like life. It's a journey. And what I've learned making content online is it's just given me a big online presence. We get a lot of organic SEO from that, which is great. So we have a lot of our leads come in that way. I just answer questions that we run into with client. If a client asks me a question, I'm like, I bet a lot of other people have that question. And at first it was just me. I would get into my car after meeting with a client. I would, you know, set up my cell phone and, you know, in my car, and I would just answer the question. I didn't even have like B-roll or pictures. I didn't do anything. I just like, you know, if you have questions about this, you know, I'd put it in the description, and it just over time kind of took off, and use that everywhere.
So something really powerful, I'm taking up something really powerful. What you said was, it was something that, well, you said it took you years to even make the first video, but I'm guessing you've always had it in your head, but didn't do it. And I think a lot of us entrepreneurs, we have that bad habit where we know we got to do this, but we're not doing it for whatever excuse, right? What prompted you to just freaking do it?
I remember, you know, it was after, it was a springtime season, and there was some transition. We have winter rye here in Arizona, so the winter rye dies out, and then there's transition from the winter rye to Bermuda grass as it comes back.
Right.
And I'm just like, I had a hat on that was like a gun hat. I was wearing a gym shirt, you know, and that was always the excuse. Like, I need to be wearing an AMS shirt. I need to be wearing an AMS hat.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? I'm never going to make these videos.
Yes.
And I saw a patch of grass that was transitioning. I'm like, I'm just going to go out here and do it and post it. And who cares is literally what I said.
Yes.
And that was the first post. And then I just made a commitment to making a video a month, you know, which isn't a big commitment, you know. And after that year of doing it, ideas just really started flourishing. Because the other thing is, like, coming up with a video idea, it's like, what am I even going to talk about? Like, it's shocking what comes up after you start doing it. You start getting the momentum, and you're like, I love making videos. Every time it rains, I love making a video. Like, hey, just so you know, it's rained really hard.
I've seen some of those videos.
Yeah. So last year around the time of the Open, there was a big rain. And so I made a video. I'm like, hey, this is a big rain. We're going to have weeds in about 3 or 4 weeks. Now's the time to get down the preventative measures so you don't get the weeds. And what happens is we'll get customers that call us a month later, like, "Hey, there's weeds everywhere. What are you guys doing?" I'm like, "Yeah, we made a video. We made an announcement about this."
Yeah.
And we kind of started using it to kind of cover our rear ends sometimes.
Yeah.
And then it was just a great way to just educate people, promote, looking like an expert. I just want to be a local expert. I'm not trying to be the
Yeah.
landscape guru for the,
Sure.
the world. If I can be the local guy here in Phoenix, that would, that'd be something I could be proud of.
I just love that story of just just making that decision. There's a guy I met who was talking about takes about 60 seconds to actually just do something that you're thinking of, and the fact that you did it, and then the effect over time, it just compounded, and now you're doing it consistently. So how long have you been doing these videos?
At least 6-7 years.
6-7 years.
Yeah,
Wow.
at least. I need to figure out the year so I can be able to say that. But yeah.
Well, I know you're a guy of consistency, because we were talking about like just how you're like every time I see you, you just look better and better. And I know you've been consistent with the gym. So, and that's probably my next topic. There is like, the importance of consistency. I know it's hard to get started on something. And obviously, these videos, you're getting clients from these videos, and it's great for your brand. So getting started is one thing, but man, doing 6 years, 7 years now consistently, what's your advice to people on how to be consistent? I that's a very broad question, but that's hard,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Especially for us entrepreneurs, because we always have something new in our minds. But what's your, I guess, secret formula on just how to be consistent pretty much in anything, with your workout, with your videos?
Yeah, I just, like I was kind of telling you a little earlier, like I have this addictive personality at times where if I do something, I just stick with it. In fact, sometimes I don't want to start a new habit because I know that I've got this addictive personality that'll just like, we have to say no to things. We talked about this a little earlier, you know. You have to be able to say no to some things, so it's being selective for me. But for as far as advice, I really love the book, The Atomic Habits.
I love that.
It's such a great book. I love the story. I actually just saw a webinar with James Clear the other day. He, and ironically, he talked about a challenge he had about creating a habit. It took him 2 years to create a habit after he wrote the book. So it's, we all deal with this struggle. It's not just the Atomic Habit guy. But one of the big takeaways that I do utilize from that book, it's probably the biggest takeaway because it's the only one I can kind of remember off the top of my head, is he's a habit stacker. And so we already have habits. There's already things we're doing. And we just add it to that stack. So you get up in the morning, you brush your teeth. Well, what else? Unless you're skipping it, you're doing that every day.
Yeah.
And so what can you add to that? And so I add a lot of things to that routine. I wake up and I journal. I journal while I'm still in bed because it takes me a few minutes to get out of bed.
That's me as well.
So it's like if you can make a habit of it, it makes it hard not to do it. In fact, when you forget, you're like, oh, wow, that was weird. You know, travel might throw it off sometimes, but other than that, it's pretty consistent.
I love it. That's awesome. I'm sure our audience is, I got a lot out of that. At the same time, it kind of validates what I'm doing, because most of the time it's easier to start something, but the hardest part is sticking to it. Yeah. Like, whether it's diet or taking a video, and it's, I love, so for those who are listening, please read that book. That is an amazing book. Everyone starts like with their business. With you started 1999. What were you doing before that?
Before that, wow, I was filling vending machines. I had a job with a canteen corporation, and that was filling vending machines. Actually, I had 3 jobs because I had just gone through a divorce, and I sold everything. I sold my car. I was riding a bike. I was 20 years old. I was riding a bike between jobs.
Oh, I love that story.
I needed to get caught up. I had debt, and I'm like, after a divorce, I was 19 when I left. So, it was so young. We didn't have a lot of debt, but at that time for me, it was a lot of debt. And so I just bust my butt, because when you're young, that's your asset.
Yes.
You've got your energy that you can work multiple jobs. Like, I didn't have time. I didn't have money. So why have free time? When you're young, if you don't have extra money to go out and have fun with your friends, then just get another job. You might as well. And what will end up happening is you'll end up getting a lot of money because you don't have any time to spend it, which is great. Which I think that's your asset as a young person to be able to take advantage of. And as you get older, you want to be more wiser, and just be more strategic with your time. You say no more.
Well, what I'm getting from that too is that I feel like you just really have that grit, right? During your phase as when you became an entrepreneur to growing it to where you are now, I'm pretty sure you've had some major challenges along the way. How much of that young experience, experiencing these challenges at a young age, how much of that played when you were going through different challenges as you were building your business?
Just the grit part?
The grit.
Yeah.
Or if there's anything else there that
yeah.
I'm not recognizing, but that's the biggest thing I got there.
Yeah, I mean, I leaned on that during the 2008 crisis for sure. I had already built I think we were up to like 3 or 4 crews at that time. And I had an office, I just had one person in the office. And I remember like, holy cow, am I going to, pay these bills if, we start losing a lot of clients. And we started, declining in business a little bit. We had a lot of homeowner associations back then, which kind of really helped us get through that. But even still, I remember when I lost my largest client, it was a big customer. I wasn't sure how I was going to make my mortgage payment, and I just let my admin team go, and I took on all those roles, and I put in 12, 15-hour days again, just to get through it. I knew my team, every hour they worked, I was making money, unless I wanted to go out there and push a mower again. I mean, I wasn't going to be able to do all the properties we had anyway, so I still needed the team for that part of the capacity to get done. But all the admin stuff is all overhead stuff, I'm not making any money on that. So that's where I needed to step up. And so I did that to weather that storm.
Yeah. So it really is the grit, which I feel like kind of related to what we're talking about earlier and the quality of people working today. I feel like that's one thing missing. It's the grit. Because I think things have been too easy in some way. That's why I really make sure, like with my kids, they don't have that mentality of, because it's really easy. You need new shoes, get you new shoes. When we were growing up, you gotta wait till Christmas, till you get a new shoes. But when you started until the growth of your business, what has been, you think, like the biggest challenge you've had so far, and how were you able to kind of address that? Was it 2008?
That was probably the toughest.
Yeah.
COVID was tough, but it wasn't too bad actually. I would have to say it was a COVID. Well, there was a couple things because I also had, for a short while, I took on a partnership.
Oh.
And the partnership, that's when we started. We took on HOAs. This was like 2006. That's when I started picking up HOAs. I partnered up with somebody that had resources to be able to help us get into that space, and I was able to land bigger contracts, which was great. It really helped the bottom line, but it wasn't as much fun. I didn't enjoy, like I remember building my business on handshake agreements. I mean, we were sending out email agreements and that sort of thing, but it was like I'm making eye contact with the one person that can make the decision. And when we started working with the HOAs, you're dealing with a board of directors, and although most of them are pleased with your work, there's always people, I don't know if you've ever been to an HOA meeting, there's always people that do not care for you.
Yeah.
And it just gave me an icky feeling of like, I felt like I'm working for people that aren't happy for me.
Yeah.
Happy, that aren't pleased with our service, and I don't know that there's any way to please them. If we had one HOA that was 1,200 units, there's no way you're gonna please 1,200 people, right? Yeah. There's gonna be some people that just do not like the way that the landscaping looks, or they want it to go another direction, and then whether they're on the board or not, you still have to hear from them, and my instinct is just to make people happy. That's why we do this, right? I don't want to offer a service that doesn't make somebody happy. And so during that 2008 crisis, it kind of saved us going through that. But at the end of that, by 2010, the partnership we'd actually had separated the partnership, and it just because they went in another direction, and it was actually better for me as well. But we just started losing a lot of those HOAs. So the 2008 crisis actually hit us kind of late. 2010 is probably what we dropped in business by almost 40% in 2010. Oh my
gosh, that's
so that was by far the toughest year for me.
Right. So do you still have HOA clients now, or completely?
We do, but they're not large. Like we won't take. I think the rule that we have at my office right now is 20 units.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I like about that share, Eli, is that even though it's making money, it's generating revenue, but you made that conscious decision that this is not making me happy anymore, not excited about this anymore. And you had the balls to actually say no. Because I know a lot of entrepreneurs, like, they don't care as long as it's making money, right? But I love that. And how important is that, like that specific decision for you now, with just the whole overall health of your business and your overall health as a person?
Yeah. We were focusing on our energy on the residential avatar, and thank God I kept them during those years, because there was a point where we were, in the partnership, we were considering letting go of the residential division, but it was the part that actually filled my cup. And I think, to your point, we a lot of those, we just let them go when they were getting up for rebid. We'd put another proposal, and they were actually looking to get out of the contracts with me. And it's just because my heart wasn't in it, and I wasn't gonna pour my heart into it, or an energy. It just wasn't feeding my soul. So we fed what was giving us energy, giving me energy, and I was proud to build. They were definitely hard to lose. I mean, to your point, it was good money. Yeah. Those big checks come in.
Yeah.
But they leverage you as well. If they're late pay, it's like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
You just keep calling and asking for the money, but it's not like, if a residential customer doesn't pay me, we just cancel them. There's we don't lose sleep over it. We're a big contract. You can't just do that.
Yes.
There's too much riding on it. I remember the largest contract I remember we had to let a whole crew go. It's like, that's
oh wow.
Letting a lot of your capacity go.
Yeah, it's the same with us. Big clients are great, but they're great when they're great. Yeah. Because when you lose one, it's like, you have to let go of like 5 people. Mm-hmm. And but it's great that with your strategy, it's like you're not stuck with one client. Yeah, you're, like you said, you lose one residential client, you're not gonna lose sleep over it.
And if my energy was focused on it, I would have had a lot more of those larger clients. And when you lose one, you don't lose as much sleep.
Yeah.
And you can, kind of shift your capacity elsewhere. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't, like I said, I wasn't filling my cup, so I wasn't putting my energy into it.
Right. So, Eli, with, being an entrepreneur for over 30 years, which, by the way, you just kind of gave up your age. You don't look like that age, man. I just got to tell you. What has entrepreneurship done for you and for your family?
Yeah, it's been the ultimate freedom, and it wasn't that way for most of the time.
Sure.
There's a lot of scars, a lot of calluses, a lot of learning lessons in the growth. But I'm in a great spot with my business right now, where I've just got a great team. We're utilizing a lot of virtual help. I think we talked about that earlier.
Yes.
I have a good size management team, because a lot of them is offshore. It's a lot more affordable, and they're great. They align with our culture. We hire with our our values, and it's been great to be able to just, my business. I served my business for about 20 years. In the last 5 years, I can honestly say my business is finally serving me and my family. That's how I feel. My day is focused. We talked about habits. My day, like, I have it I have, I calendar like I'm going to hike or I'm going to gym. I also utilize the calendar a lot, making sure that my capacity, that I'm utilizing it the way I want to utilize it. And then, the rest of the time I'm focusing on making connections, building relationships. I do a lot of work with EO, and I'm involved with on the board of that still, and so that takes a lot of my capacity right now. But a lot of what I do, I just do the fun stuff.
Yeah.
I outsourced all the things I did not like doing in my business.
That's
and
awesome.
I've handed those hats off, and now I focus on marketing, focus on managing the bank account,
Yep.
making sure the bills are paid. I manage strategy. I oversee vision, and obviously I'm involved in the level 10 meetings every week. Part of the team that way, but just holding the team accountable for what we want to do. Our goals we're trying to accomplish.
I love it. The freedom. Same thing with me. I mean, most entrepreneurs, right? It's aside from some would say it's the ego, right? But it's really the freedom. Like you can put a price on that, especially once you get to a level where you're able to do that or enjoy freedom. Because first few years you really have to grind, and then there's somewhat a cycle. But once you get to a flow, where like you said, you're just doing the stuff you love, and then you're able to go to the gym, hike, do stuff you really enjoy. That's what entrepreneurship is all about. And I love the fact too that you mentioned you have virtual team, offshore team that's allowing you to grow and operate the way you're operating. So on that note, I'm gonna make a quick plug. This show is sponsored by Gaptic Global. I mean, the reason why we're able to do this, we're not making money here. This is not a paid media, because of our sponsor, Gaptic Global. So Gaptic Global, we provide remote professionals, and we're able to provide these professionals faster and a lot more affordable. Like typically in 2 weeks, whether you're looking for a virtual assistant, accountant, or IT, Gaptic Global's got your back. So yeah. So going back to the entrepreneurship experience, when you were a kid growing up, did you ever thought of or think of becoming an entrepreneur, or what was childhood like as far as foreseeing the future?
Yeah, I didn't plan on becoming an entrepreneur for sure. I was trying to go to college. I had a daughter at a young age. I knew I was going to be a dad before I left high school, and I did start attending a community college with a ultimate goal of getting some degree. I didn't even know what I wanted to do. I really didn't. I just figured, I got good grades in school and in high school. I figured, this should be the next journey for me. But it was difficult when you have a young child, and I got married way too young, and wasn't getting the help from my spouse at the time, to really be able to focus on that. I had to really step up as a husband and a father, and take on. I was always doing at least 2 jobs just to make sure that we were comfortable.
Right.
And so I wasn't able to finish that dream. And then the opportunity came with my grandfather, because I went through that divorce, and I could afford to kind of take a little bit of a pay cut. I was actually making more money filling the vending machines. But I knew that my grandfather wasn't going to do it forever. Nobody else really wanted it. And I thought, well, this is an opportunity to have at least a good self-employed, high-paying job. Sure. He did well with the business. He wasn't out crushing it. He was 79 when I went to go work for him. He was just kind of like, I think he did it to keep himself stimulated. He would have kept working. In fact, we discovered his health issues. He ended up passing of cancer. And when he was diagnosed with cancer, the family made him stop, which is probably why it didn't take very long for him to pass.
Sure. So do you think entrepreneurship found you versus you finding entrepreneurship?
Definitely. And I was still, I read The Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was when I was younger. And I felt I had I felt like I had a business, because I had 3 crews and I was managing them, but I was still a manager, still had a job. And it really wasn't until EO, the accelerator program in particular, that it changed my life. I just always I have to be at the office every morning. Got to meet with the crews. It was too important. I remember Dave Berg was one of my first mentors that challenged me, which is great about EO, is you just get challenged by local entrepreneurs that have already done it. Like, you really think that you can't do this? You really think that it's impossible to like build a business without having to show up every morning? You can't hire somebody to be there. And so he started challenging me with that. And that was actually the very beginning of my health journey, because I'm still meet with them and we call it Run Club Tuesdays and Thursday mornings. And I could never go because I have to meet with the crew in the morning. And he's like, called me out on it. And so I started going once a week. And that was kind of the slow start of me really realizing that I could step away and just seeing other entrepreneurs doing it. That's the other thing about EO, is you're just surrounded by other people at your level even that are doing it. And you're just like, well, if he's doing it, I don't, there's no excuse for me. I gotta figure this out.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned a few things there, right? But with EO not just changed my business, but my life in general. Like, first of all, like you said, you're seeing actual people who's done what you want to do. Before EO, like, I know some people obviously I have clients who's doing it, but I don't have a relationship with them at the personal level. And I always thought that you really can't separate business from personal, because your business is your life. That's your life right there. So, but with EO, it's like having that, just the environment to be vulnerable, because other people are being vulnerable, like sharing stories that you will never hear in a coffee conversation. It's a life changer for me. And then meeting people who's done what you're wanting to do. Like, I met my mentor now, Eric, from EO. It's like, he's doing everything that I want to do. And he's sharing the actual blueprint. That's like, it's insane. Like, he's just telling me this is what I did. Of course, it's still up to you if you're going to do it or not. But to have a blueprint, it's just amazing. And that's what EO is really doing for me. Obviously, I met you. Met a lot of really, really good people. And I think, for those aspiring entrepreneurs, that's my one big takeaway, is just surrounding your people with people who's doing what you want, or what you want to do. Because if I really believe that there's a saying that if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. Like, that's what EO's doing for me. Like, I love being in that room because I know I'm not the smartest guy there. So I love that.
And it's hard. It's hard to be in a room with people smarter than you. It's hard to feel, right? I can speak for myself. Like, there's that, what do they call it? It's imposter syndrome. Right?
Yes,
It's just like,
sure.
why am I here?
Yeah.
Why do I deserve this? But it's like, if you can just push through that, I would tell people, I had people tell me, I've actually had a good friend of mine that I got to join Accelerator. Was like, I don't know if I fit in here. And I'm like, stay in there till they kick you out. Is literally what I tell them, because they're not going to kick you out.
Yeah.
You do belong in there.
Yeah.
Everybody's so worried about how they look. They're not looking at you.
Yeah.
And they just want, and the coaches are there in EO. They just want to help you. Like, it's awesome to be a part of someone's journey. It's awesome to see somebody grow and to be like, I kind of helped that guy.
Yeah.
I kind of helped that gal.
Yes.
With their business. It's like, wow.
And you feel the genuine, like, energy. Like, outside EO, people will tell you that, but they're kind of watching you to fail.
Yeah. Oh.
But in EO, it's different. The energy is different. Like, it really is like an extended family there, and I love it. So we're almost at the end of our show, Eli. But I wanted to ask you, because we have a lot of audience who are just starting their business or trying to grow. They're probably stuck. What's your advice for them as far as, growing, how to grow their business?
I always tell young entrepreneurs this: measure everything. If you're a if you're a one truck shop, one operator, whatever, if you're controlling the sales, get a notepad, write it in your phone, track how much you make daily. Gamify it on a daily, weekly, and monthly, or whatever you're addicted to. Make an addiction. When I was, when I had when I first had 3 trucks, I remember the first month I hit 40,000 in a week, and I remember how exciting it was. Or not in a week, I'm sorry, in a month. This was way back then, and I was just like, holy cow, like this is fun. And then it was a goal to hit 45 the next month, and that's doing little stuff like that, measuring that helps. If I have a handyman friend that I helped. I'm like, write down what you're making every day, because it'll impact the way you do estimates. Like, if you are making on average $1,000 a day and you're with a client that's really frugal and they're like, they don't want to pay for this stuff, you're like, and you're only going to make $600 being in your house. So you're going to be like, I don't want to do that. I'd rather not work than do this job.
Because you're losing.
And that's important things that if you're not measuring, you might make a poor decision and do work just like, well, I'm not doing anything else. Might as well do something. But you could be out pushing sales somewhere else and making an impact for somebody that's more excited to hire you. That's not frugal. Not everybody's a good customer. Not everybody's the right fit for you.
I love it. That's a great advice, man. Last question for you, Eli. For those who want to learn more about AMS landscaping, get your help with their house and whatnot, what's the best way to contact you?
Yeah. I love just giving free landscape tips, actually. I have a great YouTube channel. It's, YouTube.com/AMS Landscaping. You can find us also on Instagram and X now at AZ Lawns. That's our website, actually, azlawns.com. But I just love giving back that way and just giving kind of free advice about landscaping tips online. I just think it's been a fun journey for me.
Awesome. Well, man, this has been a great episode. Truly blessed to have you in the show today. So that concludes our show. Again, this is Chris Yap, your host of From Zero to Revenue.